We'd like to say that we spent hours preparing for this episode, but that would be a lie. So let's just get into it. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Dom and Gabe Show. Gabe, you've been away, down in
Yes.
Florida for,
In Florida, the land of the sunshine.
last week. So we didn't do last week. So we need to get caught up a minute. And I didn't do anything. I think that's definitely a lie. It's probably impossible for me to be doing nothing, but we'll get
Even if
sort
you
of caught up on
breathe,
all
you're
that.
doing something.
Okay, so another day, another episode where we pretend to know what we're talking about.
Yes.
Tell us about Florida. What happened? And you were down with family?
Yes, down with family. My brothers both moved down there, so we spent about 8 days down in Tampa. It's nice coming from up north to have some sun and 70 degrees, 80-degree days in
Yeah, I
March and
bet.
February. So that was nice.
We had about an inch of snow last week, so you missed that.
Exactly. So it's nice to have a break from the winter and have
No
some
sunburn
fun.
either. So
No, we did all right. I had a hat on most of the time.
okay.
you know. So, and we put on a lot of sunscreen. I just did not want to come back with sunburn. So I
Mhm.
think that was just about on that. Also the morning started cool. So I would wear like a long sleeve shirt in the morning. By the time it was afternoon, we were already doing something. We were at the zoo or covered.
Nice.
We did one or two beach days. It was 2 beach days. And one day it was just like 30-mile-per-hour winds. It was almost like I was like, we should not be at the beach. Everything's it was fun to be with family,
Mhm.
but it was so windy.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
but it was a good time. And as we know, this is a sports podcast, so the Yankees were in full swing. They were doing spring training. Um, and then I had a little fun moment where we
Yeah.
were walking through the playground and I saw this guy. I'm like, I know this guy. I don't know where I know him from, but I know, like, when you see a face and just like your Rolodex of faces in your brain just kind of clicks through. And I'm
Mhm.
going through all the people I would know that match that. And
Mhm.
then finally I'm like, I think that's Chad Green from the Yankees, an old pitcher. And
Oh,
I was like,
really?
"Nah," but I was like, "I don't think it is." Like, one, he's not even with the Yankees anymore. He's with the Blue Jays. He's not even they don't practice in Tampa. They don't play in Tampa. Like, I looked at his schedule. I'm like, "They're not playing in Tampa." So I was like, "This is probably not him." But it kinda sat with me. Me and my wife were in the car. We're both Yankees fans, and we're like, "I gotta know if this guy's him or not." But I'm like, "How do I do this without being a creep?" Because, like, he's got kids. Like, I don't wanna bother him. He's a person. He's on his break before a big season starts. Um, and so I was like, well, I'm gonna try and do this. I'm just gonna go walk back to the park, act like I'm getting a drink of water, and if I pass by him and say like, hey, like, I'll just know if it's him or not. And so I'm going by him, and he's kind of like not looking at me because he sees I have this Yankee hat on. I'm like just gawking at him,
Mhm.
and I'm walking by, and I'm like, and I saw because he has a birthmark right here or whatever, kind of like I do.
Okay.
And I was like, I saw that. I think I'm like, that's Chad Green. And so I
Oh,
was
nice.
like, well, it was kind of like a break. He wasn't playing with his kid. He was kind of by himself. I was like, hey man, I was like, by the way, I was like, hey man, I had to say this. You look exactly like Chad Green. And he goes like, I'm like, are you Chad Green? He goes, yeah.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh my, I was like, we're huge fans. We love when you played for the Yankees, so we were always appreciative of you watching you. My family loved watching you. And he's like, oh man, thanks. Like, he was very sweet, very nice.
Mhm. That's
And
cool.
I said, my son, we're big fans. He goes, oh, if he wants to come say hi, come say hi. And I was like, oh, thanks very much. And I said, I won't bother you too much because I see you're with your family, and so I don't want to be like, can we take a picture? Can you sign something? Even though I did, but I didn't have anything on me.
You sign my chest, please. I'll tattoo it on
Sign my
afterwards.
back.
My back.
Well, Kelly, my wife in the car, she was like, "Can you get something to sign from him?" I'm like, what am I gonna bring? Like, I have like used napkins. I have an
I
old
was gonna
parking
say
pass.
napkins. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you sign this? Anyways, but then my son was too shy, but it was really cool to see him. He's,
That's fun.
he's not like he's not like Derek Jeter or like an Aaron Judge, like a very but for me, he's very like I recognized him. So it was
That's cool.
fun. That
Nice.
was a highlight of the day.
Oh, that's really cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. You
But
mentioned the
no, it
winds
was
at
nice.
the
Yeah.
You mentioned the winds at the beach. I remember we once went to one of the few memories that I have of being like 9 years old in the beach. We were at Fiji. In between moving from New Zealand to Australia, we spent like 4 months or 6 months in Fiji or something. And I remember the one day where it was thundering and raining. We walked down to the beach. By the time we got there, it was starting to pour and there was lightning. I remember thinking, this is gonna be epic. And there's like, you can see the huge thunderheads way offshore and the lightning
Yeah.
starting to come down. My dad's like, yeah, we're not doing this. Everybody out of the
Yeah,
water.
this is not
I
safe
don't
at
know
all.
how lightning conducts and how far it goes, but I don't want to be in a pool with someone throwing cattle prods in it.
Yeah. You just wanna
Everybody
be
out.
out there. Take me to the elements.
Um,
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the beach day was fun. The beach day was not fun, but it was good to be out. We had a lot of time outdoors. That is nothing. It's nice in the sunny, in the southern state. Like in the wintertime, you could be outdoors, and so we were outside. And then when we got back, our chickens started laying eggs. So that was
wow, perfect timing. Do you have somebody taking care of them while you were gone?
we did. Yeah, we have our neighbors and family that we have chickens, a dog, and a cat. And so
Wow.
between the three of them, or four, they all.
So they could have been getting 2 days worth of eggs before you knew it.
Yeah, they could have. No, our neighbor texted us, said,
I
the
see.
day he goes, "Hey, congrats, you're officially a chicken farmer. You got 3 eggs." So
That's
that was like, it was like honestly another highlight of the trip. I was like, so because I was like not like with kids, but you put all this money and effort into taking care of these chicks. We made sure they got through the whole winter, like, and didn't die, and I texted my family. I said, "Well, about $500 down, and then we got 4 eggs now." It's like that's how much it costs basically to get them to that point.
well, that is the state of the economy right now.
Yeah, exactly. Might as well go to Costco and buy them. But yeah, it was just nice to see them, and they, and then now that it's sunny out, the chickens were outside and running,
Nice.
walking around.
That's awesome. What do you feed them?
We have been doing a mixture of cracked corn,
Mhm.
and it's just called, I don't know what it is. I look at it, it's layer feed
Okay.
crumbles. So like when your chickens start laying, you can give them. It's called layer feed, and it's just like a mixture of and it's all ground into pellets.
Okay.
But then we also give them our vegetable
I was
and
gonna
fruit
say
scraps.
chicken scrap or kitchen scraps and stuff.
And
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know this? I've not looked it up, and I have the internet at my fingertips. But chicken egg scraps. Can you give them that to eat? I heard that.
They're omnivores, right? So
That's
they'll eat each other.
Yeah.
They'll eat eggs,
That's
chicken
what
meat,
okay.
all that stuff.
We suggested, I'm like, you could do that, and my wife's like, yeah, you could do that. Like I think I heard that. I'm like, I bet you can. It just for some reason didn't sit right with me. So it's like I'm just gonna throw them away.
Well, I think we're over. We give way too much vegetable stuff. Vegetable
Yeah.
over dried plant matter to our animals, like dogs and
I didn't. Well, yeah, I didn't know about for chickens. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know what they. I'm new to it. So the next time we have our, cracker eggs, we'll give it to them.
What we do is I try to dry out we keep our eggshells. You dry them out and then you grind them up in the coffee grinder, and then you get like it becomes powder, and then that's great for remineralizing teeth and bones because it's straight up calcium.
Oh, so then how would you consume that after?
Well, I mean, but you can't, like what's recommended online is you put it in your smoothies, maybe sprinkle it on your salad or something.
Oh,
I just
okay.
can't stand the grit of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets in my teeth. So I'll just take a spoonful and,
Down the hatch.
down the hatch and chase it with milk or water or something.
Ooh, milk is a chaser. That's good.
I do vodka, but
Yeah.
can't afford that right now.
In the morning, just
Yeah,
eggshells and vodka.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I need to be doing that a lot more. But yeah, I let them rinse them off. And
Yeah.
then put them in the oven
Yeah,
so that they
rinse 'em off.
bake, fully dry
Oh.
out. And then smash them down, shove them in a coffee grinder, blend them into a fine white powder. And then I'll also take that. I make all of my own dog food. So we'll sprinkle that into the dog food as well. So he gets calcium as well.
Wow. I did not know that. I mean, you could definitely tell a difference between these eggs and the store-bought eggs. One, they are smaller, which is fine. And it could just be the breed of chicken. But
But they're
the
yellower too, right?
yellower, and when you try to crack them, it's a thicker,
Yeah.
like not the shell part, the whatever is beneath that, the
Oh, the
membrane or
membrane is
whatever,
stronger, huh?
so strong. Like I actually
We're
ended
gonna
up.
survive this world, everybody.
I took a knife and I had to cut through. I was like, because I mean, not
It
not
sounds like
because
Jurassic Park.
not because I couldn't physically break it, because I was getting it and was cracking into so many pieces, and I was getting so many little shards in my eggs. I'm like, well, this is just a mess.
Supposed to be after I
know.
boil this thing.
I think
Have you ever tried duck eggs?
No, I haven't.
So we got them for we were buying duck eggs for a while because my wife was trying a different diet.
Mhm.
And first of all, they're bigger. The
Yeah.
shells are they feel like porcelain. They're beautiful and they're strong.
Oh,
Gosh,
yeah?
are these things strong?
What color's the yolk? Curious.
I remember it
Like
being
orange?
pale. It was
Oh.
paler
I was thinking
than
orange.
chicken egg for some reason.
Speaking about eggs too, when we lived in an apartment with my my in-laws, we had a lot of spiders. Just it was part of the woods we were in, and in the basement is a kind of it was a first floor apartment, or lower level apartment, and somebody had heard, I don't know who found out, that ostrich eggs keep away spiders, like in like old churches in like Turkey or Iran, I forget which one it was, and it could be neither. They hang ostrich eggs from the ceiling to keep spiders away. So we had like 3 ostrich eggs in the basement, and they last unless you
Wait,
crack
it's an
them.
unopened
An unopened
egg.
ostrich egg. We
Okay.
ordered these eggs from I don't know where. And they were in our apartment for 9 years.
Wow.
And I can't confirm because we did it right from the get-go.
Okay.
We were only there for like a month before we start. I don't know if it did work or not, but in the areas that they were, let me think about this before I say it. I think there was less spiders in the rooms that they were in because the spiders usually accumulated in other places. Isn't that interesting? I don't know. It's just I don't know what the
Never heard
science
of that.
behind it. Yeah, I don't know what. I thought it was like they just have a scent that repels. I don't know.
Okay, I have got to
Could be
now Google this.
it could be a
Ostrich
giant farce,
eggs
but
repel spiders. Well, it's believed that they emit an odor that's
see,
cannot be smelled by humans, but it's detestable to insects, particularly spiders. In Turkey, they use it in greenhouses and
Turkey,
food
see?
storage areas.
Yeah,
That
I saw
is
there was a church in Turkey that I saw they hung them from the ceilings.
I mean, that just sounds like Easter all year round. Right?
This
This
is
is my spider repellents. It's like not the Easter bunny.
when you first hear it, it sounds like like medieval like witchcraft, like get the egg and the spiders will repel. I was like, all right,
That's like Sam was doing it wrong. He should have just brought an
that's all.
ostrich egg.
Bring a couple eggs.
Oh, gosh. And Sheila would have just backed off. Oh, that's
see? That's all you need.
ridiculous. That's so funny.
Yeah, but
Wow.
and those, and when we left, we cracked one just to see because we didn't want it anymore. I don't know why. And there's a thick shell. That's a thick shell.
Yeah, you need a
Like
hammer.
coconut.
I assume. Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, I actually don't know
That's
where the other
incredible.
one went. Maybe threw it away.
Man.
But
So
yeah.
did you get a chance to watch or read anything fun?
We've been doing some shows. We did Love Is Blind. We did fun, the Trader. Did we talk about Traders? Did we talk about that?
You
Did I
mentioned that.
watch it all.
In conversation.
That's what we did like basically the whole week. So on Peacock Traders, the
Mhm.
gist is it's a bunch of reality TV stars from a bunch of different channels, Bravo, all over, and it's like the game Mafia. I don't know if you ever played it. Yeah, everybody
Once, long time ago.
close their eyes and like two people are selected to be the mafia or the traitor. So in this game, everybody's closing their eyes or they're all blindfolded, and then a certain amount of people are chosen to be traitors, and the rest are faithfuls. And the game
Do
plays
we,
out.
as the viewers, get to know who
Yes,
those
you,
are?
you do get to know, which I thought was interesting. I thought it'd be cool also to not know, but I think it's just easier to film it and having them know it. And throughout the game, every night somebody is murdered or chosen to be murdered, and then the following night somebody is banished. So the banishment, the faithful try to remove the traitors, and the traitors murder the faithful one by one.
You ever play Among Us?
Yeah.
It
Yes.
sounds like that.
Yes, exactly. It's that vibe. And at the end, it's you kind of try and weed everybody out when it's down to 4 people. And if there's all faithful remaining, the faithful all win. They split the prize money. But if there's one traitor among them left, the traitor gets it all. At least one. There could be 2, I think. So it was fun. I know it was very interesting. I did not expect to like it, but it was very entertaining.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. I still want to give that a look. I have been binging Reacher on Prime.
Okay.
Did you ever watch that?
No, I haven't.
So I tried it a year ago, or 2 years ago, actually, when it first came out. And he's this massive, glorious bodybuilder. I grew up watching, not grew up, I'd seen him before when he was a lot younger as Aquaman in the Smallville series.
Oh,
so-
Smallville. Wow. What a blast from the
Yeah.
past.
Yeah, my wife and I love that one.
Yeah.
That's great. That was funny. They had to slip in an Aquaman joke in season 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was funny. But so anyhow, he shows up in season 1, and he's this massive figure of a man, and he's also extremely intelligent. And at the time, I couldn't swallow the idea that somebody that big was also that Sherlock Holmes level of smart. Okay, because those just I've never seen that go together.
Yeah.
It just felt too unbelievable. Like, let's
Yeah.
create the perfect man,
Yeah.
and he's got everything going for him, and all the women want him, and
Mhm.
he's like also really smart. Like,
Yeah.
it's just too unbelievable. Well, um, anyhow, 2 years later, season 3 is dropping. I saw clips of it being promoted, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, there are little moments that keep showing up on my Instagram feed where he just shows up and he does the heroic thing and he does the good man thing. And I was like, okay, I need to go back and give this a go. And so I
Mhm.
got back into it and ended up absolutely loving it. And I
Yeah.
binged season 2 and I'm caught up through season 3. And it turns out, actually, I was Googling, he's got the same personality type as I do, although I don't have the pecs, but that same kind of like,
Don't sell
type,
yourself short. Yeah.
yeah, type 5 on the Enneagram sort of thing.
Oh,
It's like, oh,
cool.
I'm not used to having like a fictional sort of character
Yeah.
who's like my personality type.
Is that why you jived with
Um,
him, you think?
well, after I really got into it, I began to realize the way that he looks at the world, like his pattern recognition, his insight into things,
Yeah.
his relentless, um, studying of every environment, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can understand this. And of course, he's jacked, and so the ongoing
Which I can
question
relate
is,
to. Yeah.
well, shut up. Uh, if you have that
Yeah.
card in your deck,
Yeah,
who
yeah, yeah.
are you? What kind of a
Mhm.
man are you? What kind of person are you? And that's so the thing that I'm loving about this. Obviously, he's not meant to be like a perfect ideal kind of guy. He is very much the lone wolf kind of man.
Yeah.
And like we talk with like heroic men, right? How
Mhm.
Father Larry says there are no lone wolves in Christianity. And so he's the kind of lone. It's interesting. I'm kind of curious what you think about this. He's the kind of lone wolf kind of figure. I think there may genuinely be some men who are in this specific kind of role, because there's not every man is called to the married life, and not every man is
Yep.
called to the religious life, and there are
Mhm.
some men who are called to be kind of like the roving, perhaps maybe roving warrior
Yeah.
type, kind of like a free floating cell in your body that goes around and,
Sure.
and tackles problems wherever they're needed. um, um,
Well,
Anyhow, where am I trying to go with this? The sense that how do I say this? The ideal American, or no, the American ideal of a man, I think, is what they're trying to put together in this
yeah.
character. The kind of person who has a very strong moral code, um, recognizes that he has card in his deck. He's got a
Yeah.
massive frame and a strong intellect to solve problems, and he does not back down from any
Mhm.
fight anywhere. And he walks right into it and he solves the problem.
Yeah.
He never runs away from a problem. And so I'm thinking, I'm liking this a lot because there's attitudes to take from that. I think that's why we get into and we read stories. If you can't see anybody in your life who models
Yeah.
a good, strong kind of masculinity, right? Then that's why
Yep.
we need stories, because they can sort of rise above time and we
Yeah.
can all dip into them. And
Well,
yeah.
I think, the lone wolf discussion, even like, what Father Larry says, there's no lone wolf. I think it's just a matter of what I look at it as how you fit into the larger community. We
Mhm.
all have different roles and facets, and some of us are called to married life, like you said, married life, religious life, and even single life. Even though even single life, you're not necessarily a lone wolf. The way I'm picturing it, you're involved with the community in a different way, because I think that's the whole thing is, with the body of Christ, we're all called to be together in some way, shape, or form. Some of us
Mhm.
in a married life, some of us in a religious life, but even in a single life, you're still, you have friends, you have family, you're still part of the overall herd or the overall tribe.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that's, it probably, but it poses a challenge when you're, debating that, like, where am I
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
tribal
Because it's interesting,
fitting?
right? You think of like the early hermits, the fathers and mothers of the church, and they have,
Mhm. That's
little
true.
reading that I have done on it,
But yeah,
literally ran out into the deserts. And
it's
everybody
true.
jokes the deserts are more populated with hermits than the cities are with people. Everybody trying to get away from everybody else. And
Yeah.
it's not, I think it's a matter, maybe it's just a matter of mindset, right? So from
Mhm.
a story point of view, as I get through like the second into the third season, the second season is all about his team. Like, he's from a military background. He puts a team of people together, and they die hard, ride or die, love each other, and it's an amazing thing. So he seems like, if I were to try to abstract and look at his life outside of what's going on in all these stories, he seems like he's on some kind of a healing journey. He's trying to get away from everybody and rediscover himself. And
Mm, that's
he's
cool.
endured a ton of pain, and he just needs to
Yeah.
get away from everything, maybe for a long time. Try to put the pieces of himself back together.
Yeah.
Maybe that's kind of what's going on. I think when we're talking about like this whole lone wolf thing, like what is an ideal man? Or maybe what are some good ideals for masculinity or something? And this idea that, you know, I work on my own salvation by myself, and I'm going to get myself out of here on my own. I think that is very much what Father Larry's pushing against. That's what, well, I mean, especially with our job, our focus is on a lot of, what does it take to be a good man, and a lot of it
Yeah.
does come down to how you relate to your community, how you step
Mm-hmm.
up for, how you respond to. I think that there's a lot of alpha males,
Yeah.
today who are like,
Yeah.
I
Well,
can ride over anybody
yep.
and I can do whatever I need to because
Mm-hmm.
my survival is paramount. And maybe to the extension of my specific tribe around me is paramount. Everybody else, I
Yeah.
don't have to care or do good by any of them.
Yep.
And I think that's what we're pushing back on.
Well, and it's funny now you're connecting to what I forgot. I did watch something this week that
Yep.
stood out. It's an old one. And I watched it with my kids. It was the animated Hercules from 1997,
Oh,
and
really?
it was which is my favorite movie as a kid. I loved it, and watching it again with them and to see them like it too. But the storyline is again I wish I knew more. I'm aware of all not all. I'm aware of Greek mythology, but I'm not like really in tune with it. So I don't know how true it remains to the original like mythology. But anyways, the story of Hercules I'm relating to the movie that we the animated show
Yeah.
movie. The depiction of what a hero is very cool. So the gist of is that Hercules is his immortality is taken from him almost all the way, and he wants to try and get it back to go back to the home where he truly feels like he belongs, and so he becomes this macho man, just slays all the monsters, and is adored by all, and he goes to his father again, Zeus, and he goes, Dad, I've waited for this a long, day for a long time. Like I've defeated everybody. Like, I'm ready to come home. And he's like, and then Zeus says, "You're not ready yet. You're not quite there. You haven't displayed what truly means to be a hero." And he's like very, confused. Like, what's going on? Like, why am I not? I've done all heroic things. Why am I not accepted back into, my home? And it's funny, like, it comes only when he sacrifices. He chooses to give up himself to save Meg or Megara. I don't know. So, and to have that play out, it's funny watching it. I get caught off guard with my emotions sometimes. And I was getting like, emotional connection. Like, wow, like, that's what heroism is. Like, like that sacrifice, that, like, doing something that, is really difficult in giving of yourself to save another or to love another. What's heroic in a marriage, giving of yourself to, pour into your wife, or, to will the good of her, and sometimes sacrificing your own, or your children, or your community at large. And, just the story of her, her redemption of, kind of giving of her soul to Hades and yet still being saved. I don't know. I love the movie. It was great. It's such great fun. But the story of like heroism throughout the movie is so interesting. I just forgot. I didn't really think about it much. But looking back at it this weekend, it was very fun to see. Highly recommend if no one's saying it.
Yeah. There's, this is a thing I've been thinking about. So like we're both novel writers messing around with fiction and stuff. And I started noticing if a story, how can you, well, there's lots of ways you can tell how do you tell when a story is serious or like things are
Yeah.
supposed to be, or how do I say this? When the storyteller wants you to understand this is actually a very serious story, even if it's maybe slightly funny or something.
Yeah.
There's actually a serious message. Maybe it's because there will be some kind of a death early on.
Yes.
And I don't know if this is true or not. I need to keep vetting this idea, but it seems to be there's always a founding sacrifice that kicks off a hero on his quest. Because the founding sacrifice is the thing that he failed to save, or because of his decisions, this was unintended, or this was an outcome because he was not leveled up enough to meet the demands of the world. this became really clear. Like I was watching Breaking Bad, and I think it's episode 1. He gets into a drug deal situation, and then a bunch of people die, and um, they try to dispose of the body, and they ended up melting through the entire bathtub, and it just goes
Yeah.
everywhere, and it's a mess.
Yep.
And it just became very obvious. Wait, this feels like in the beginning of every hero's story, there was supposed to be a sacrifice. Now, the
Yeah.
question for the hero is kind of like what you said. Question or the challenge of the hero, maybe the definition of a hero is the person who sacrifices themselves or an element or an aspect of themselves,
Mhm.
not always completely their whole
Yeah.
life. But I
Yep.
am prepared to be the one to do the sacrificing for the good of others.
Yes.
Whereas the anti-hero, like thinking of what's the other movie with Frank Underwood, House of Cards, where the anti-hero is routinely sacrificing everybody else
Yep. Exactly.
around him to
Yep.
do his thing. And then in a comedy, I think the hero is almost always the one avoiding having to make any sacrifice ever.
Yep.
Maybe at the end he finally gets it.
Yeah.
But it's just, and so then the actual hero will, if it's like a over the top heroic story, then he starts out strong trying to save lives but fails.
Mhm.
You know, and then
Well, that's
the younger hero who has to grow into it is often defined by that moment of loss. Either a
yeah.
friend is lost, or because they failed, even somebody bad died, or they had to
Mhm.
bring about the death of somebody else, and they begin to realize this is not a healthy or a good definition of heroism. I can't live
Yeah.
my life this way. This person didn't have to die. Something like that.
Yeah.
What goes through your mind
Well,
on that?
that's what I think is it has to be that element of selflessness put on the line. So like
Mhm.
going back to Hercules, like when he's defeating all these monsters,
Mhm.
if he doesn't defeat the monster, it's no loss to him really. But if he does, he gets fame and attention and clout, and so it's like there's nothing on the line for him to lose defeating all these monsters, even though it's hard and difficult. And even if he dies, his death is not really I'm starting to think that his death is not a loss to his main mission, because like his main mission is to be where he belongs, and he's not giving anything up yet to do that, even if if he
Mhm.
dies, he still can go back to where he belongs.
Mhm.
So it's like it only was when he was like, okay, Meg's down in Hades, and the only way to get her is to put my life on the line, and if I fail I lose everything, but if I win I gain everything. So it's like
Mhm.
even though there is a big gain, the loss is greater, and he has to put himself on the line, and he could mess it up. I think,
Mhm.
and that's when the fates try to cut his line, and they can't because he became a god.
Mhm.
So I think I like that, and I even put that into my own story that I'm writing, is that the character is doing all these things that are heroic, but that doesn't actually change anything or do anything.
Mhm.
It's when it comes down to, okay, he's got to put something on the line that actually defines heroism.
Mhm.
And he says he loves his family and he does all these things for his family, but deep down, he's doing everything not for his family, it's for himself, and that his family just benefits as a symptom of it.
Mhm.
So I like that idea of that the hero needs to put something on the line.
Mhm.
It's got to be something on the line. It's got to be some selflessness. And if you look at Christ as like the ultimate hero,
Mhm.
and he put everything on the line. He put his life,
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh,
And
yeah.
Jordan Peterson routinely he loves to come back and reflect on the story of Abraham, and I think the reason why we have preserved that aspects of Abraham's story is because there's actually a great levels of meaning to it, and so the sacrifice of Isaac as a moment that happened that has great mythic meaning for all men everywhere, which is, are you prepared to give up the thing you love most? Because he only had, I don't think he had any sons. He only had the one son. And God said, out of you, you're going to have as many descendants as the sand of the sea and
Isaac and
stars in the
Ishmael,
sky. And then he gives him one kid. And he says, are you prepared to let that go? Or are you hoarding and gilding your child and like keeping him locked up in a
yeah.
nursery so there's no spindles anywhere can touch
That's
him or
yep.
It's like, you prepare to let him go and to completely surrender him to me,
Mm-hmm.
which you could always see in an ancient form of talking. Are you prepared to offer him up as like a holocaust to me, to completely, absolutely lose
Yeah.
all control of the situation?
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't have any control.
That's funny. That goes into just parenting in general.
Yeah.
I feel like just because we raise our kids with as much love and attention and worry and concern, but at some point and early on, you have to let go. And
Mhm.
I think it's funny. I had a nice little moment of seeing that this weekend. My daughter did she's playing softball, and they did like an evaluation, softball day, so that see where you fit into instructional, minors, majors, whatever. And so they're playing, and then this woman who's next to me, her son was playing with another boy, and they're just, rough boys, just yanking each other's arms, throwing each other to the ground, wrestling, and just being 8, 9-year-old boys.
Mhm.
And it was funny because she said something that was like, she goes, all I see in front of me is injuries. Just somebody's arm is popping out, and she goes, she was talking to her husband, but I overheard because I was right next to her. She goes, all I see is injuries, but it's all okay. If they get hurt, it's all okay. It's like, it was just like she was just speaking her mind out loud, and it just hit my mind. I'm like, you're right. Because in my mind, if my heart, if those were my kids, I'm like, I'm the one who's always like, oh, like don't do that. Like I'm trying to get better at that, but I'm more of like a don't get hurt, because I think of all the ripple effects. But it's true. At some point, they have to get like they're gonna get hurt,
Mhm.
and just to let them go. And so it goes into like this, realm of like, heroism and sacrifice and just letting go. And I think, that's what I was thinking about for Lent.
Mhm.
Now we're in, the season of Lent, and,
Yeah.
thinking about things we have to let go, and that cliche phrase that always pops in my head, let go and let God, but it rings in my mind. It's just like, how do you do that?
Mhm.
And you start with these little things. And I'm going to tie back. We went to church
Mhm.
on, Ash Wednesday
Okay.
in Florida, and at the church we went, it had it was spin the wheel of Lenten sacrifice, so you could choose
Oh,
what you wanted. Like,
really?
yeah, so it's like if it's like it says if you need help, we have some suggestions, spin it. And some of them like I never even thought of. It says give up your pillow, sleep on the floor, and I'm like, wow, like that is like, you know, talk about like
I'm not sure I
desert
like this
fathers.
wheel.
It was like the wheel of torture. But it was just again, it made me think. I didn't choose any of those, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was just like, what can we let go and give up? So that was one side of things for trusting God. But then the
Mhm.
other side, then I was tying it back to our kids, like, how do I? Because we have 5 children. I'm like, there's no guarantee that any one of them turn out a certain way.
Mhm.
It's just that has always been on my mind. So like, how do I give of that to God to handle, do my best and give up to God? I'm kind of dancing around the subject. The thing I'm thinking about is control,
Yeah.
and how Hercules, so time back, he thought I'm gonna have this all under control. I'm gonna do it my way. I'm gonna defeat the beast, and I'm gonna be a hero the way I'm gonna have
Mhm.
it all under control. But the only way
Yeah.
he becomes a hero is by letting go of his control.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm dancing around all the topics, but it's all
Yeah.
humming around letting go, trust,
Yeah.
sacrifice.
I think for some people, um, the perhaps specific call of their life, or maybe for a season of their life, is to figure out how to be the sacrifice.
Mm,
The challenge then is this. How do I say this? Whoops! It is a okay. There's a reason why we call these the mysteries of the Rosary. They're not called the obviouses of the Rosary, because a mystery is not something that you just
mm,
think about and you figure it out.
you
A
get.
mystery, it's a bit like a game. You have to live it. You have to experience it. And it's only through the doing of it that it starts to make sense.
Mm,
I think that is the meaning of why they were called the mysteries, like the Eleusinian mysteries of ancient Greek, or the mysteries of our Christian religion. These are not things that you can write down and teach in catechesis. You can talk about them. You can turn it into an icon of words or of images, and then you present it to people and you go, here, chew on this for 50 years and see what it
yeah.
does for you. And that's what
Yeah.
we do with the rosary. It's like, okay, I
Yep.
pray it every day. I'm supposed to be like reflecting on this every day. And then one day, maybe all of a sudden something goes, oh, this is what this means. Because I've
Mm,
tried to sort of copy what is in this
yeah.
hero's journey that is the 15, 20 mysteries, right? Um, so like especially the sorrowful mysteries, I used to be very like melancholic as a kid. And so I loved the sorrowful mysteries. Then I got married and realized, okay, think I like the joyful mysteries better. Please, let's make things joyful now.
I've done that a
No,
bit,
the
but
sense of
yeah.
there's not
Yeah,
only a
yeah.
joy in the mysteries, but there's like a path of how to figure out self-sacrifice in the joyful mysteries. Um, anyhow, where am I going with this? Uh, these are things that you have to live out. And so if you're walking the path of towards Calvary, right, that path of self-sacrifice in your life, there's at the same time I don't remember this line. I can't remember where I read it, but it's like men are more than the sacrifice that they offer to their
Mm,
community. Like the sacrifice of your life. Like a lot of us men, like we think that best I got to offer everybody is my ability to
do.
enlist and go die for something.
Yep.
And that's an awful view of manhood or masculinity, that you're nothing but a brick in a bloody wall that keeps civilization up or something. It's like, no, you're a lot more. Just
Yeah.
who you are as a person and everything that you've not yet developed. You have a card in your deck that perhaps you've over-repped and developed, and that's great. You've learned maybe some of these warrior sort of minded skills. I think it was in the book Iron John where the author said it used to be the case, maybe in some cultures, a man could not join the military unless he'd learned to dance, unless he'd learned how to engage in, how would you say, a state of structured play
Yeah.
with women where his strength is put to use in like a mutual engagement where she feels safe and they are able to enjoy.
Yeah.
It's not just a state of play. There's tension like in dancing. Like, I used to take dancing when I was in college, um, and there was a lot of like swing dancing. Went to the ballroom dancing, folk dancing, I like every dancing. And man, my sister, she and I went at the same time, and sometimes we would pair up, and she loved it. My gosh! And there would be moments like she'd like throw herself into it, and it's like this is like a full-on workout trying to keep
Yeah.
up with her because
Yep.
she knew, because would practice dancing together a lot. She knew that I would have her. And so she could throw herself into like moves and
Hmm.
stuff. And it's like pulling barbells, trying to hold
Yeah.
this thing together so she doesn't go flying off and slam into a wall, right? So okay, now that maybe that's like a little of an extreme thing. But there's, what am I trying to say? There's with dancing, and it's like as you get married with like lovemaking, there's a form of struggle, there's a form of playful, joyful, good wrestling almost that happens. There's a movement, I can't remember what it's called. Peterson actually years back talked with the guy who talks about how men need to wrestle with their sons especially, but and
Mm,
with their daughters, and how a lot of kids never experience that state of wrestle, that state of play, which is like, it's like a state of like riskful and behavior where there's no risk, where there's trust in each other.
yeah.
And so when you're a kid and you do get that, and so Peterson says it in his brainy way, but is like you are able to like map your idea of yourself literally onto your body.
Mm,
And then in doing that, like actually being in your body, you then learn to sort of map out where is, how far is too far when I'm playing
yeah.
with somebody else. Like you talked about the
That's
boys
interesting.
wrestling and
Yeah.
struggling.
Yeah.
It's like vital to learn, like, are you fully in your body? And then do you know how far is too far in
Mm,
using your body with somebody else?
that's
If you
interesting.
go too far, they pull away and you don't, the game is over. And the
Yeah.
point of the game is not to win. The point of the game is to keep playing like
Yeah.
forever, right?
Yep.
Across years, across multiple play sessions. And so
Yeah.
if you come in as a bully and you just, all you want to do is win and you thrash everybody, it's not fun.
That's
So
interesting.
you're not going to get invited back again. So so what this guy then does, he goes, most kids today, they grow up without fathers. Mothers don't engage in like this sort of wrestling kind of play.
Hmm.
So kids are like unmapped they don't live in their bodies. And so there are little things that he does. He teaches, people how to wrestle together and how to play together and how to engage in like little bits of these activities. And the number of times that he says there will be men, like their lights will go on in their eyes as you feel the because it's done in a state of respect and attention, you can call that love,
Hmm.
where they wrestle with like another man who wants their betterment without it shading off into an inappropriate kind of relationship that
Yeah.
is a self-serving sort of thing. um, they start like remapping, they start re-engaging like with their bodies as men. Like, how you've probably seen this, like I used to go to altar boy camp as a kid and summer camp and stuff like that, and the number of boys would be like straight up dorks. I was a big dork, right? And they would be unable to like do anything. They had no
Yeah.
confidence in their body to do
No.
anything.
Yep.
There's no resilience, there's no kind of
Yeah.
but the funny thing was with women, how the number of women had never like been engaged with or touched or wrestled with, even in a good way. right? Especially in a good way, some in a bad way. And they would just burst out with tears because that sense that my body is a good thing and it can be engaged with and flexed and used and pushed against. And
Yeah.
there's a fighting capacity, that I have that can also be done in a state of play. And the number of them that would break out into tears because they had never been like affirmed
No. Yeah.
in their not just in their femininity, but in their ability to engage with and resist and wrestle with each other and with the world. They're enshrined and put in lace, maybe too quickly, or and then I think the tomboys are the kids who like are the women who are like, oh, course correct, like I
Yeah.
absolutely cannot deny this element of myself,
Yep.
right? And so we just don't know what to do with them or something. It's where am I going with all this? Actually, kind of forgot. We need to wrap. But you're talking about that sense. Oh, I think that to sideline all men as the path of the heroic path is to sacrifice, and to be a hero is to give up and to sacrifice first for everybody else. I think, yes, that's true. I think that does have to also be done carefully. The myths and the mysteries present us with a very clear sort of pictorial idea of what it's like to go through the
Yeah.
crucifixion, to go through the cross, to go through being the demigod status.
Yeah.
But that's a path you have to explore. And at the same time, you also have to be the man who holds the line and who figures out why you're here and who discovers your own gifts and who does good and keeps the family together. And so I love the other sort of image of maybe, what's his name? I forget. It's Moses' father-in-law from the Prince of Egypt.
Oh, Jethro. No.
Yes, I think it is
Jethro.
Jethro.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his whole song of, and now I've forgotten it. Look at your life through
look at your
heaven's
life.
eyes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's such a great song. And look at him
Love
as this
it.
figure.
Yeah.
Everybody loves being with him. Children love playing with him. He has not lost an ounce of his, like he's this massive warrior bear of a figure.
Yep.
And yet all of that strength goes towards creating a safe tribe arc environment. And you contrast that with someone like maybe Jack Reacher a little bit, or The Witcher from, with Henry Cavill, right? Where that's a person who understands this is an element of my masculinity I need to really master. But they seriously struggle with how to bridge that back into being a member of society. They haven't learned where the boundary lies yet.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a question to come back to because I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question or where you go to start finding it. I think that the book, like Iron John, actually starts.
That's what I was gonna say. That's like that's
provides
the
really
path.
good stuff
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we need to wrap. We'll come back.
Yeah.
This is fun. Any closing thoughts?
No, I think I'd like to hit that next week and talk more about that, and maybe talk more about our books. See where we are with that.
Yeah,
We'll get there next week.
Okay,
Little teaser.
Fine, next week. You bought yourself another week. All right, friends, we're out of coffee, out of time. Laughed, learned, or at least didn't fall asleep. We consider this a win.
Yeah.
See you next week.